All right, let's try another one. Today I want to talk conceptually about big-time basketball, aka the NBA. I want to talk about the GPS, not in a global positioning satellite or whatever that means, but in the great player syndrome in the game of basketball. The great player syndrome is when everyone else except for the player who has their hands on the basketball initiating the offense, whether it's in pick and roll, pick and pop, or something else, some action off of that or something else. The guy who, like Luka, like LeBron these many years, like Kevin Durant, like Kyrie Irving, like Steph Curry, no question, like guys like that, Donovan Mitchell, just great playmakers, shot makers, Damian Lillard. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's a lot of great score. I mean, Kyle Lowry is a heck of a player. But all these guys were so great off the bounce that they create enough space for looks for themselves or to get it to teammates with boom-boom passing. That's what it's all about, because it is much more difficult to get buckets in that league than the masses have any idea. I promise you. If you think there's no D being played in the NBA, I'm telling you, you're dead wrong. There's enough teams that don't care about it and don't do it at a high level, but there's likewise as many or more who do, those upper level teams, especially the ones that sniff championships and win them occasionally. Those teams are playing defense, and you better be big time skilled and playing together and play the game the right way by moving the basketball until you finally get an open look. And you better do it at a super high, efficient clip to score in the NBA. That's why they scored in the 120s and up. It's the skill level, people, I'm telling you. It's the skill level. All right, back to what I originally wanted to talk about, and that's the great player syndrome. Think about it, even in your own playing days, when you went to the gym, maybe more than occasionally, but at least occasionally, you run into that great player, that guy who was either a pro, borderline pro, D1 if nothing else, just could really play, and he was a playmaker, a handler. No, you couldn't do anything. He'd get to his spots, get looks for somebody else, create mismatches, get downhill on people, just do whatever he wanted to, right? In a sense, well, back that up. Not in a sense, but in reality, exactly opposite of in a sense. In reality, that's what's going on in the NBA. So the thing that is talked about is when somebody does amp up defense enough to combat that. Even though Luka and them lost in Game 7, he still had 46. But that makes my point. By default, Kristaps Porzingis looked a lot worse than he actually was. He wasn't great, certainly. Wasn't even really good. Made some plays, made some shots and all that. But a lot of plays and a lot of shots he didn't make. And probably as many, I don't know, or close to as many, enough to where most people are saying he's dookie. And that's just not true. It's the great player syndrome. When Luka has the ball in his hands that much, the touches you get go way down, because a lot of those Luka's letting go. He's shooting those things. You better have broken back door or got a real clean look. And Porzingis shoots the three well, as do a lot of the Mavericks. I'm not going to go into the whole game breakdown why they lost in Game 7, but the cliche, it's a make or miss league, was certainly appropriate there. And Tim Hardaway had been really, really good up until that point, and that ankle. Could use that as an excuse or whatever. Look, that's legit. You can call it an excuse if you want. That's legit. Tim Hardaway Jr. is the real deal. And he was knocking down shots consistently throughout the NBA playoffs. He did last year. He hasn't been perfect, but he's been really good. And he did not shoot the ball well in that game. And I for one, I'm going to blame it on the ankle and just fate. I'll split it right down the middle. But back to this great player syndrome. Think about it. LeBron with the ball in his hands. How many opportunities does a guy like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or anybody, Kuzma, or anybody, you're there basically when LeBron can't get all the way downhill or get real good looks that he likes, If you've got a better situation, LeBron's going to get you the ball. I'm talking about a little bit younger LeBron now. I'm not saying his days are over or anything like that. I think LeBron's going to. Well, I'm not going to get sidetracked on that. We'll do that in the next entry. But the point is, okay, when you have great players that initiate offense, trying to get buckets on that end, right? Your touches, if you're playing in that game on his team, they are few and far between, and if you're better than anybody else on there and you've got the mismatch, you might get a lot of opportunities. But if you're not cashing in on a very high percentage of them, the ball goes right back to LeBron, right? I mean, it just makes sense. Or Durant, or Kyrie, or James Harden, for Brooklyn, or just pick whoever you want to pick. But those guys who make plays and make shots make the big money in this league and win the championships, right? But it causes other players to have to really step up, and when at least one or two of them steps up, teams win championships. But when they don't, and I'm not saying Dallas choked, and look, fate had it that they just missed shots, and and the Clippers did not play well enough to close the deal. And I love me some Dallas, but I love me some Clips too. I love all the teams in the NBA, and now the secret's out. Not going to get a whole bunch of negative out of me on these presentations, but keep that in mind, the great player syndrome, because it really does. If a player doesn't really come up big that night, it magnifies how bad he looks. And I think that's what happened with Kristaps Porzingis. Anyway, GPS, the great player syndrome for those other players.